Hey, how you doing? My name is David Duford, founder of BuyLifeInsuranceForBurial.com, where I help people like you get affordable burial and life insurance. And in today's presentation, I'll be specifically talking about the reality that you may have been declined for life insurance and want to know what the alternative ways are out there to get life insurance. So let's jump right in and get started. So let's talk about an overview of today's topic. So first, I'm going to formally introduce you to myself and then also to my business, Buy Life Insurance for Burial. Then we're going to go right into the question that you're probably wondering is, why were you declined for life insurance? So we'll kind of cover the most common reasons why life insurance companies decline applicants to try to give you a little bit of perspective. And then we're going to talk about what your options are to get life insurance after being declined, and I assure you there are definitely options to get coverage. And we're going to specifically talk about what you need to do to get the facts of why you were declined for coverage. We're going to talk about how you can shop your application with a broker, and then also potentially apply for simplified issue coverage, which includes term and whole life insurance. And then I'm going to talk about what I deem the trump card when nothing else works, what your final option will be. And then I'm going to give you my final thoughts on qualifying for life insurance after being declined for life insurance, and then give you the next steps as to proceed if you are attempting to try to get life insurance somewhere else after being declined. So my name is David Duford. I'm the founder and owner of BuyLifeInsuranceForBurial.com, where I help people like you get affordable and high quality life insurance for final expenses and burial and that kind of thing. I have been a licensed life insurance agent since 2011 and helped over 3,000 families nationwide with their life insurance needs from all walks of life and different economic circumstances. I'm also the published author of the official guide to buying final expense insurance. It's a short, consumer-focused educational guide to help identify what types of final expense life insurance options are best for consumers and their health history. In addition to helping people with insurance and helping them through writing articles and books, I'm also a life insurance agency owner. I work with agents across the country and train them so they can help people like you in their own backyards and in their own communities with life insurance needs. And last but not least, I am also married and am expecting at the filming of this video my fourth child on the way, so wish us luck. So let's jump right in to the main question at hand. Why were you declined for life insurance? So there's a variety of reasons why a loved one, if you're looking for someone else, or yourself was declined for life insurance, and we'll identify some of those reasons. The main thing I want to make completely clear before going forward is that ultimately the reasons for a denial of life insurance coverage comes down to the individual underwriting standards for the company you applied with that determine the reasons. The thing is, with life insurance companies, there's a variety of life insurance companies available, and every one of them has their own unique set of guidelines. Many people think, well, if I'm declined life insurance, I'm just out of luck, right? Not the case. Different life insurance companies rate and grade different health history issues better or worse. It just depends on the circumstances of your particular reason why you were declined for life insurance in the beginning. So there may still be options for you. Again, a lot of this will come down to working in the right setup, working with what's known as a broker instead of a one company agent. We'll talk about more of that in a minute, because a lot of the times a broker can find you much better pricing, and not just pricing, but underwriting flexibility in these cases where you find yourself declined. So let's talk about the top reasons why individuals are declined for life insurance. So one of the common reasons why is obesity or having having a weight issue. Again, certain companies have specific guidelines with height and weight ratios. When as an agent, typically what we're given is a comparison chart that compares your height and gives you a minimum weight and a maximum weight. And those numbers are determined by the underwriting departments at each life insurance company. Through experience, I can tell you those numbers will vary depending on which life insurance company you deal with and what your individual health circumstances are as well, in addition to the height weight concern. I can think of several companies off the top of my head that are very flexible with obesity or overweight issues, whereas there are other companies out there, very popular, very common life insurance companies you've all heard of, that immediately rate up or decline if it's outside of the agreeable window for height weight that they want to see. So again, this is one of those conditions that if you're set up the wrong way to shop for life insurance and to qualify for life insurance, you're just not going to get the best deal that you could. And you may be shocked to see what you actually can qualify for by just looking at other life insurance options. Another reason why people get declined for life insurance is due to income restrictions. Now, this specifically deals with the ratio between the amount of coverage you're applying for as well as the amount compared to the amount of income that you take home annually. So one of the reasons people buy life insurance is because they want to use it as a source of an income replacement. So for example, in my insurance situation, I make a certain amount per year in my selling activities. And if I were to die suddenly, there is a multiple of that income that's paid out to supplant or supplement or just replace my income so that my spouse and children can continue on without me. However, there is an upper limit to that amount of coverage, assuming that the amount of income I make stays the same. The reason they have that is because what life insurance companies realize is some people apply for enormous amounts of coverage that are unnecessary, and it raises red flags as to what the real underlying reason the person is applying for that kind of life insurance. There have been cases where people attempted to qualify for large amounts of life insurance coverage that made relatively little income and then suddenly passed away, and the life insurance company was in a situation where they had to pay a death claim potentially that could have been set up in an adverse negative way that never should have in the first place because the particular person was trying to game the life insurance company. So commonly life insurance companies ask for the need of or the reason why you are applying for a certain amount of life insurance coverage. So if that's the case, that you're wanting a certain amount and you were declined because of it, you may not have been declined outright. You may have been offered a maximum amount of coverage as a ratio. Again, if you feel like the need is there and you explained it and you were still not offered any more than that, this is another reason why to work with a broker, because we can shop around where some insurance companies have more liberal requirements when it comes, or liberal allowances when it comes to the income restriction ratios. Another reason people are declined for life insurance coverage is because of elevated vitals. So when I say elevated vitals, one of the things that may be involved with a life insurance examination is, a life insurance policy is an examination. For example, you may have blood drawn. You may have to pee into a cup. You may have a swab of your saliva taken. You may have to go through a general physical with a physician or a nurse, or even do an EKG or some sort of heart stress test. All of these things give the insurance company underwriting baselines to determine your eligibility. And it's likely that I shouldn't say likely, but it's common that many people who do these examinations find out after the fact, who believe they're in good shape, who don't necessarily go to the doctor frequently, come back with a letter giving a declination because there was elevated vitals. Most commonly what we see that result in a decline is elevated blood sugars. Someone basically has the beginnings or the continuance of diabetes that's untreated. And for a life insurance company, that's very risky. It's essentially diabetes uncontrolled potentially. And so they want to see some time pass before, in this case, before they would approve it. Other reasons along the same lines, high blood pressure. High blood pressure causes an assortment of longer-term problems, including strokes, heart issues, kidney problems, and the like. High triglycerides, same thing as high blood pressure, can cause heart ailments. High liver enzymes can show all sorts of health conditions as it relates potentially for cancer, alcoholism. And so if the company declines you based off of elevated vital signs due to the examination, then it's likely that they will require you to have a period of time pass before approving you for coverage. So this, again, is one of those things where the definition of what is elevated and to what extent is it acceptable differs between different life insurance companies. Some will be flexible under some circumstances, others will not be. And again, this will come later. We'll talk about shopping the case with a broker, but you may be working with a life insurance company that is traditionally conservative with any sort of issues as it relates to your vital signs. They may not like diabetes altogether and immediately determine that you're declined. I know of one very well-known life insurance company that declines many people just because of diabetes. Very frustrating, but there's many companies that will take that. So again, comes back to who you're working with and what your other options are in case you are declined. So we mentioned blood sugar, cholesterol or triglycerides. So not elevated vitals, but hazardous occupations and hobbies. So one thing life insurance companies want to protect themselves against is the likelihood of approving somebody for coverage who is in a position, whether through an occupation or through a hobby, that puts them at an elevated risk for death. So a couple of examples for hazardous occupations that are commonly rated up or declined depending on the carrier used includes airplane pilots, as well as loggers and manual laborers in hazardous or risky environments. Additionally, hazardous hobbies would include things like scuba diving, gliding in the air. Oh, I just forgot what that is. Hang gliding, that's what it is. Things where there is an inherent risk that if things go bad, you're going to die. So now the solution here is similar. Some companies are well known for their flexibility to approving people who work in hazardous professions or have hazardous hobbies. They're well known for approving them for coverage, maybe at a higher price. So again, one company will have a perspective on a hazardous occupation or hazardous hobbies and decline you for life insurance if you fit those profiles. That's why, again, it's important to work with a broker to see who will accept whatever particular occupation or hobby you have that other companies would deem hazardous. Another reason to decline somebody is based off of a driving record that has a short history or a compact history of driving record issues, for example, misdemeanors, high speeding, DUIs, DWIs. If you can imagine something in the category of reckless driving and things worse than that, if they're grouped together within a short period of time, you may be facing the potential for being declined for life insurance. So again, this is one of those subjective things. Different companies will consider different circumstances. And if you're declined with one company, it may not have been the best company to start with. Chronic debilitating diseases. So this is a wide swath of different things that could potentially have caused you a decline. So not to say that you have this, but if you have things like COPD, hepatitis C, AIDS or HIV, other ailments, Alzheimer's, dementia, these are things that typically will get flat out declined, especially if the diagnosis of it is relatively quick, relatively not too far from the application when you took it. So again, now this is where conversation will eventually steer towards simplified issue. Many debilitating chronic diseases after an examination where you're declined for life insurance can still be covered with a simplified issue product. Now, this is an interesting situation. Previous life insurance declines. Whenever you apply for life insurance, or really any kind of insurance, there is a record of your attempts to apply for insurance at what's called the Medical Information Bureau. This is essentially a collection of information where insurance companies can check against to see your health history. They can see how many times you've applied for different life insurance, and they can make insurance decisions and underwriting decisions based on that history. So one of the things that are shown on the MIB records are your attempts to apply for life insurance. And if they see that you've been declined a number of times, it may put a bit of fear in the mind of the underwriter that you may not be suited to be approved for their particular life insurance product. Again, this is subjective. This is something that's different and unique between each carrier. Some are more conservative and regard that information more dearly, while others don't. And many of the underwriters at different life insurance companies completely understand that their underwriting is liberal or easier to qualify for than others. So take that with a grain of salt. A lot of it will just come down to the underwriter asking why were you declined, under what circumstances. And the more that you can disclose, the better off and better information that you'll get from an underwriter. Other reasons that you're declined for life insurance include anxiety, depression, PTSD. Common reason to be declined is if you've heard voices in your head, and there's a record of that will prevent you from coverage. Depends on the severity of the anxiety, depression, PTSD, when it was originally diagnosed, how you're being treated for it. Again, these are all issues that have to be taken one by one and in the context of you and the rest of your health. There are carriers that, despite these, will take you, and again, it just ultimately comes down to your particular circumstance. Last but not least, drug use. If you have a drug problem, if you use hard drugs and there's elevated liver enzymes that show that, or there's MIB records that show that you had counseling or was involved in some sort of a physician usage to overcome your drug problem, this will prevent you from getting coverage until a couple of years have passed. Again, it comes down to the date and when it happens. I will say this, marijuana use is generally considered okay with a lot of carriers. Some still are it's a black and white issue with them. And others are more are coming around to accepting it because of how commonly it's used, and in many states it is legal. So now that we've divulged all the reasons why, and there's other ones too, but most common reasons why individuals are declined for life insurance, what I want to talk about now are what are my options, or what are your options when you're declined for life insurance. So the first step you need to take is to, in writing, request why, or at least call up the insurance company and request why you were declined in the first place and get it in writing. The reason why is because what you'll ultimately want to do is shop that application with your broker. So if you're working with a company that represents just one company, you may want to consider working with someone like me. I shop around for my clients to find them the best price and coverage, and we work with a variety of different insurance companies to try to see who's going to give you the best combination of price and value of coverage. So one thing that's very helpful with a declined case is getting in writing from the insurance company what reasons there were that they decided to have or to decline the case outright. And then you can take that information along with the new application to another company and do what's called a risk assessment. And an underwriter will take a look at that information and come up with a determination based off of, is this worth your time as an applicant to try to apply, knowing that you were declined on these reasons. And as a broker, we can talk to multiple companies, not just one, so we can try to figure out who's going to give you the best deal and under what circumstances they would issue the coverage. So get that in writing. And many times if you've taken an examination within the last 6 months, you do not have to take another one. They'll still use the same information gathered from it, along with the reason why it was declined and your application. Of course, they're going to check your health history again, but there's no new exams required most of the time if it's within 6 months. And then you can see what another company would say. So brokers work with multiple life insurance companies. I mentioned this a little bit ago, and they don't just work with one, and they want to take your case out to the market and see who is going to take your case and try to get it placed. Again, when you work with one company, you only work with one company. There's only one set of rules, one set of options, and then many times it may not be in your best interest depending on the circumstances. Brokers can talk to multiple ones and see who is going to give you the best ultimate deal that gets the policy issued, hopefully. Now, another option, let's say you take your examination results, you take a new application, you go to brokers, and the broker goes to the underwriters at different life insurance companies, and they end up saying, look, I don't think we're going to be able to get coverage because of XYZ conditions, and under no circumstances is this eligible for some kind of life insurance. The next step would be to apply for what's called Simplified Issue Life Insurance. So Simplified Issue Life Insurance is essentially life insurance where there's not very much underwriting involved. There's no examination. There's a minimum period of look back on your health history, and many chronic ailments with some of these companies are actually acceptable and will give you preferred pricing. So there's two kinds of products we're going to look at, the term life and whole life insurance term life and whole life insurance. And then finally, we're going to talk about applying for a trump card type of policy when all else fails. I'll get into more detailed information in a moment. So what exactly is simplified issue? So simplified issue life insurance is commonly known as no exam life insurance. Life insurance companies review your medical records without another examination. They just quickly look through what's called attending physician statements, MIB and prescription health history information. This is all readily accessible information with your strict permission to access it. The one benefit with simplified issue life insurance is typically it's more liberal with health questions. So a lot of the health questions that would knock someone out in a full examination can be more flexible with a simplified issue life insurance product and may allow for coverage despite the original denial of coverage. Perfect example is type 1 diabetics. Very hard to get them coverage in some circumstances because in many cases they're insulin dependent. Well, by design they're insulin dependent. And a lot of companies just don't take insulin, don't take diabetes. I have companies that will take a type 1 insulin dependent diabetic for first day full coverage. And they will allow you to get coverage if you're in that particular situation, granted that the rest of your health is acceptable as well. So again, one company's take on diabetes will be very conservative, while another ones will be very flexible. You want your options to obviously do the one that's going to give you the best coverage. So the options for simplified issue life insurance is really two different kinds of policies here that you can look at. The first is called term life insurance. Term life insurance and whole life insurance. I'm going to tell you the pros of these particular options. So term life insurance, real quick summary, term life insurance is terminating insurance. It typically gets you the most coverage for the least premium dollar. The downside is it only lasts for a term of time and then either skyrockets in price or goes away and cancels. Term life insurance is most commonly used for mortgage protection and other debt protection types of setups. And is used as a temporary way to get coverage. It's a good product to use. It's certainly better than nothing, but historically is a little bit more difficult to qualify for. Whole life insurance is the opposite. Whole life insurance is designed never to go up in price, never to cancel because of age or health, and is designed to be what's called permanent protection. Now, you may qualify for first day full coverage because many times, especially simplified issue whole life products, are very flexible with different chronic ailments. I've gotten people with COPD, a history of cancer, heart problems, diabetes, mental health problems, and the like, first day full coverage, whereas fully underwritten products like the one you were declined for life insurance with would normally decline you under most circumstances. The pros of a term life insurance is its bottom line, it is the most coverage for the least amount. The cons is that it's just a product that is not going to last forever and you may outlive it. Whole life insurance of pros is you pay a level premium and never increases, and it lasts forever, never cancels as long as you pay the premium. The cons are it usually costs more than term life insurance. So for every dollar you pay into term, you'll get less coverage for whole life insurance. And there are circumstances where term is better in some circumstances than others, and whole life is the superior choice. I've got a whole training on where one would be better than another. Just know there are simplified issue products for both, regardless of what direction you go. So let's say you try this route, you try to apply for simplified issue whole life, simplified issue term life, nobody takes you. What are your last options for life insurance after being declined for life insurance? So the last option is what's called guaranteed acceptance life insurance. Basically, guaranteed acceptance life insurance approves coverage without requiring a series of health questions answered. If you look at the application, they just ask your age, where you live, sign your name, and you're approved. The drawback with anything, well, the pros to start with a guaranteed acceptance life insurance plan is that no matter what circumstances health-wise you have, you will be approved for coverage. So we're talking AIDS, HIV, Alzheimer's, mental incapacity, bedbound, terminally ill, current cancer, current heart problems, Otherwise, would have been declined with anybody else, you can get coverage here as long as you fit the age range. Typically is between 40 and 85. So cons with the product is that there is a pre-designed, at minimum, sometimes with some companies it's more, there's a 2-year waiting period on death claims from natural reasons for death. So if you die within 2 years of a guaranteed acceptance life insurance plan, after you take it out within the first 2 years, then only the premiums are paid back to your beneficiary and plus a marginal amount of interest. You literally have to live 2 years before you're fully protected for natural and accidental causes. And it is pricey relative to the other options because, look, they're not doing any underwriting whatsoever. They're just approving you for coverage. And that's part of the reason they have the 2-year wait as well as a slightly higher premium. So let me give you some final thoughts on why and the process of how to get life insurance after you've been declined for life insurance. So the bottom line takeaway here is this. You do have options for coverage even after being declined for life insurance. You can try simplified issue products. You can try term simplified, whole simplified. You can shop your case with another carrier. Worst case, you can go to guaranteed issue. There are lots of options. My recommendation is to start from best case scenario to worst case scenario. So what that would mean is that if you get declined and let's say you took an exam, then I would end up trying to shop your case with another life insurance company, do a risk assessment, and work with a company that is willing to say, at least based on what I'm seeing here, I want to go ahead and at least give this a shot, and I think I can get you approved based on this price and coverage. Not for sure until I do the full underwriting, of course, but I want a company that is going to feel positive that there might be a shot here to get you approved for your coverage. So if you've had an exam, I want to shop your case with another company where they'll take your examination results and kind of just take a look at it and decide if it's something that is possible to get you coverage. I'd also, again, if let's say you didn't do an exam to start with and you just did simplified issue coverage, I would shop it with a simplified issue type of coverage again. It's the same setup even if you didn't do an exam to start with. You're going to have a situation where certain companies are more flexible than others when it comes to life insurance. So I would try another company. Look, I really can't stress it enough. I've been doing this since 2011, and there are certain issues that other companies decline immediately while others approve the same issues without missing a beat. So, and it's likely that if you're watching this video, you're dealing with an agent that just doesn't know the options like I do. So if you've just tried to get simplified issue coverage, let me help you shop it for you. We'll try another company. I'll do the grunt work to try to shop it and see who's going to give a better deal. And then last thing, as much as I wouldn't want you to consider this first of all, if all else fails, apply for a guaranteed issue life insurance plan. As long as you fit the age range, you're going to get it. And yes, there is a waiting period, but the thing I want you to understand here is that if you've been declined for life insurance, it's likely, you might as well face it, that you're going to pay a higher premium, or if you're going to get the same amount of coverage, you're going to have to pay more. If you want to keep your premium the same, you're going to get less coverage. But I want you to understand that some coverage is better than no coverage. If you've been declined by a life insurance company, likely it is for good reason. There's something in your health history, I can't tell you what it is, but it's making an underwriter a little bit nervous to take you on as a life insurance applicant. And this, by no means am I trying to offend you. It's just that you need to be open-minded with, if you do get accepted, which would be fantastic, to be flexible on the coverage or flexible on the premiums in order to get something on the books. The worst thing that ever happens with families that I meet is when somebody is belligerent about coverage and doesn't get it because it just doesn't match down to the penny, whether on price or the amount that they want in coverage. Because there's just no good measure and good reason to pass up on any kind of life insurance. And if you can't get what you want, there's no reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You should try to get something on the books. Many times, if you're under certain circumstances, your conditions will actually improve. Maybe you get healthier. Maybe your health improves. Maybe you get your diabetes under control, or more time passes between your circulatory or cancer event. And you can go back and reapply for better priced coverage. That is definitely an option you can pursue. but I believe it's much better to just get something now, even if it's not ideal coverage. At least you start something and you get it on the books and come back to it a year or two and then shop it again and see who wants to take you on now that you've proven that your health is good and you're not going anywhere and there's more time between the event or the reasons why you're declined and where you are today. So hopefully that makes sense. It's vital to your family and your loved ones to have some kind of life insurance on the books regardless. So final steps here. If you like what you've heard today and you're interested in qualifying for life insurance, final expense, simplified issue, guaranteed acceptance, go to buylifeinsuranceforburial.com for a free quote. You can go to the message box and send me a message, or you can call me at 888-626-0439 to speak to me live. It takes me about 5 or 10 minutes to run a quote for you. So there's no obligation, to give you an idea of what you can qualify for, what the premium would be, and to describe how it works. If it's great, if you like it, great. If not, that's fine too. If you like what you saw in this video and you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the video, or if you're reading my article corresponding with this video, leave me a comment there. And please subscribe and like if you do like the content that I'm producing. My name is David Duford, and I'm the owner and operator of buylifeinsuranceforburial.com, where I help people like you get affordable life insurance coverage. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.